schools will reopen in about only 3 weeks' time, and the Cool Dads Foundation is asking you to spare a thought for less fortunate children by donating a pair of school shoes and socks. Founded back in 2015, the School Shoe Drive seeks to give dignity to children from impoverished backgrounds by collecting school items for them. We are now joined by Bongani Luvalo. He's the founder of the Cool Dads Foundation and the brains behind the collection drive. Thank you very much for your time put on this afternoon. If you enter a number of spaces, the Christmas decorations are maybe there, but it's mannequins of the little ones with the school bags, with the shoes, with the uniform. It's almost that time of the year. Maybe just remind us why this started back in 2015. What did you see?
Look, Sister, thank you very much, and to the viewers at home. Look, we had a program. So Cool Dads Foundation has got 5 programmatic areas. One is called Interactions, where fathers teach each other how to spend time with their kids, because many of us would not know what to do with the kids when we are left with them, you know. And the second one would be empowerment, where we do workshops, seminars for fathers, having to empower them. The third one being a big brother mentorship, where we mentor young boys. Then we also do advocacy and lobbying. But the last one was us collecting toys and old clothes. But unfortunately, many fathers would not, those who are unemployed. It was merely to ensure that we close the gap for fathers who are unemployed. So we'd have clothes, we'd have toys, but fathers would not collect them. So we then decided that it might not be making that much of an impact. And then we thought there are kids within our research that are walking to school, you know, whether barefoot or who've got one pair of shoes that they use either on a weekend and also going to school, having to play soccer and so on. So we thought, why can't we then reach out? Instead of collecting clothes and these toys, why don't we then ask our members and the general society if they could contribute, you know, in us having to cover a child that walks to school, you know, barefoot. And as we know, that kids are quite mischievous. They tease each other. They don't understand, you know, what could be the economic status of another child. So we thought this could be an initiative that also closes that gap, because you might find that the same child either comes from a home where there's no father or the father is unemployed. So it still spoke to the main objectives of the foundation. So that's why we really started, you know, the school should drive to ensure that kids that are going back to school, they also look like normal kids when they are back in class.
You are your brother's keeper.
Definitely.
Let's take a look at the pillar of interactions. I'm quite curious, and please, but what was your relationship with your father like?
I didn't grow up with my father. I always say that I'm my mother's son, and I've always been surrounded by women. And I think that's one of the things that contributed to me thinking about what is the status of, you know, households, you know, within a clan, within the street. And I think I then realized that even when we play as boys, you know, in the soccer field, you know, boys would like to fight time and two. It was a rare situation where another boy says, I'm going to tell my dad, you know, instead I'm going to tell my uncle, I'm going to tell my mother, or I'm going to tell my grandfather, you know. So that as well, you know, became that reminder in my mind that not many, you know, households would be having a father figure, including myself. I only met my father when I was literally 20. Unfortunately, he passed on last year. We're still trying to develop that relationship. So basically, me having to look into, you know, this foundation. Actually, this year we're celebrating 10 years since we founded Cool Dads Foundation. Was also propelled by my own situation, but also the research that one was interacting with that said South Africa has got a high level of absent fathers.
I see about your dad.
Though it's part of the life that we live.
Sure. You know, you speak of the scourge of absent fathers, right? And in the same breath, they are also cool, amazing, phenomenal dads who single-handedly also raise their children. And so with this program of interactions, maybe tell us about some of those fathers, those stories that we don't know about. Who are there?
Look, I think when we had our first picnic, it's called the Cool Dads Picnic. So we don't allow mothers, we don't allow women. So it's fathers who come with their kids. No, it's not. It's trying to create that environment, you know. And for many years, people didn't understand why we tried to set up that kind of a space, you know. And and mothers then later came on to say, no, now I'm at ease to leave the house and go to the mall and leave Ubongane and
I finally have some me time.
Yes, I can go to, a book reading session, or I can go to meet up with my girls or run my own errands with the comfort that I know that they will be okay. They will be fed, they will play and so on. But when we set for our first picnic in 2013, some of the fathers who were actually looking forward to bringing their kids came without those kids, and they were sharing that I couldn't because Ututu said no, the child is with the aunt or the grandmother, or the father does not agree because of Anglaulanga and so on. And we then had a bigger understanding that the problem is not just only fathers that run away, but there are other elements that contribute for us to have such big numbers of, absent fathers. One, the question of culture. If we are not married, we are expected to pay Tlaulo, to pay Ilobolo, and it has become now a serious bidding process where you must pay 100,000, 50,000 for global lingane and so on. But two, we've also learned that when couples separate, one wants to prove to the other one that they can be mean without understanding that in us playing these games that we're playing, we're actually impacting the child, The third one is that there are fathers who die when their kids are still at a very young age, and when stats come, it also encompasses all of this in the same bowl, But also there's research that shows that our generation, at least, 21st century, fathers are quite participating in their children's lives, despite these challenges. We're not saying that we've closed the gap, but we're saying it's shrinking, and the numbers are, from Sonke Gender Justice, I think from the Department of Health, I think there's a report from University of Stellenbosch. It shows that fathers of today, my peers, are more involved, are emotionally involved in their kids' lives, physically involved in their kids' lives, and also financially contributing, which for us as a foundation, it also becomes, that, thumbs up to say, at least we are seeing a difference from the generation of our own fathers to us being fathers. And so, which means tomorrow we might be dealing with kids that have got, that relationship with their own fathers, that is not only physical or financial, but also an emotional relationship.
Silungisa kanjani lesingakwazi ukuyilungisa more so between mom and dad? What is co-parenting, and how do we achieve that? What is the point of co-parenting?
Co-parenting is ensuring that a child has got access to both the mother and the father, despite the fact that they don't stay in the same house, and having to understand that the important individual here is the child. So whatever that we do, we are all contributing positively to ensure that the child has got an appreciation with Uma or Baba, they are still here, they might not be in the same house, and also I am not the problem, because when a child grows up and sees the mother living on the left and the father living on the right, you tend to think that it's your fault, because they'll tell you that they were in a relationship. Then sometime now, when you are around, now there's a split. So who causes? So the child concludes that they are actually the ones that have contributed to that split. So co-parenting and blended families, it's something that now, even the foundation, next year's activities, we are going to have a conference on blended families. How do we ensure that we create a safe environment, for these blended families, and how do we co-parent properly? Because blended families is a question of how do we co-parent without, harming the child or actually looking at our own egos. So it's something that is happening, and we just have to give each other tools of how best do we do it. So we are going to be having a conference next year that is going to be looking at, blended families and how do we navigate those kind of streets.
If we take a look at the pillar of Big Brother, where you are mentoring young men in South Africa, what are they telling you?
They just want to be heard, and they long to have that male individual next to them, even if it's not their father, but a big brother, an uncle, a priest. And one of the things that I grew up with was that I knew that at school I had a teacher that played a fatherly role. So if there was any challenge, I knew where to go to. At church, my priest would fetch me if I didn't come. Say, I didn't see you at church for 2 weeks. Why are you not at church? I'm going to wait for you. You must bath. We're going to church. So as males, as fathers, as brothers, as older brothers, we've got that need of ensuring that even ourselves who grew up without fathers, we close the gap, because of the same boys are feeling the same, a pinch of not having a father figure, somebody they can talk to, somebody they can say, there's a fight, how do I deal with this? Or now I'm starting to date, how do I navigate the streets of dating? This is my career options, how can I go about all of those things? So these boys, you then realize that I think one time we were having a workshop for them, and I had brought some of my friends from different career paths, you know, and I remember hugging this friend of mine. I was like, "No, thank you very much. I love you, my brother. Thank you for coming." And the boys were like, "You," and I was like, "What's wrong?" I said, "Boys don't hug each other and tell each other they love each other," you know. And I said to the team, "Guys, this is an indicator that
something to me.
Emotionally, we are not allowing boys to have that feminine side where they are in touch with their own emotions." So we learn a lot that boys, men are emotional beings, and how do we best respond to those things, you know. So it has been quite a great impact. I think we've got about 18 boys that were graduating last year that were part of us since 2017, if I'm not mistaken. We're waiting for the new results for the ones. I think we're looking at about 8 of the boys who are writing their matric this year. But the teachers were confirming that they've seen some behavioral change within the boys since they spend time with us. So it's quite important to have that big brother.
It takes a village.
To raise a child,
yeah.
definitely.
Just finally for us, if people want to donate shoes, if people want to give their service, if people want to be a mentee or a mentor, where do they go? How do they find you?
I think it's Luvalo at cooldadsfoundation.co.za or at 0720875798.
Butwam, siyabonga.
Thank you very
Magwani,
much.
thank you so much.
Cool and happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year.